back for our last segment of Listen Up a Minute. I'm with Bill McGee, our gracious host in the Fallacious Studios on the south side, and out in the Roanoke River Valley, Dr. Reggie Sharif of Radford University. Dr. Sharif, when we were setting up for this next segment, we were talking about how someone may not, in this case of Matthews and Byron Scott, for whatever reason, not capitalizing on that three-peat, say a week after or a month after winning the championship, but Pat Riley did. And you and I talked, and Bill and I were talking earlier that I never heard Byron Scott say anything bad about Coach Riley, and haven't heard anything from Wes Matthews at all. So I guess we can assume that Pat Riley did give them some money, or maybe he didn't, and they just don't want to say anything bad about Pat Riley.
Well, I read something recently where Wes Matthews was kidding Riley and said, "You can send me a check." And generally, because Riley has maintained a good reputation in the NBA, a good reputation with the players, I've concluded that over the years that Riley has given these guys some money.
Okay.
Right. He's had monopoly control over the slogan, and but because of the way it happened, I think in some sense he tried to make these guys, to use a legal term, whole. And he's giving them money. They don't seem to have a lot of bitterness about it, and neither do other players in the NBA. And so I think that Riley understood that because at the time he had greater knowledge or understanding about trademark law, that he capitalized on it. The story would get out, and it's not hush money, but he had compensated. Right? And so I think that's why it hadn't been a bigger scandal, right?
Okay.
But,
so Doc, talk about the situation with Pharrell and Robin Thicke and the and the Marvin Gaye people.
Okay. All right. So in 2015, Marvin Gaye's family sued Pharrell Williams and Robin Thicke for reverse engineering Gaye's 1977 song "Got to Give It Up," and we all know that beat, right?
Absolutely.
Pharrell Williams re-engineered the beat and used it in Robin Thicke's 2013 mega hit "Blurred Lines," right? And I've talked to a lot of people about it. Now, here's my experience with the song. I don't go through a lot of parties, but there was a friend of mine that gave an annual Christmas party, and I went. So this must have been 2013, 2014. That song was playing, and people were dancing, and I couldn't figure it out. But that blurred line seemed, not the lyrics, but the beat seemed so familiar that they just kept playing it on the loop, and everybody there was my age. So a couple of years later, I think my wife said she knew that it was Marvin Gaye's song. I didn't know, right? They got caught. And the verdict was $5.5 million to the Gaye family, and then 50% of
the revenue.
Record sales, yeah. And here's the interesting thing I want to say, or several interesting things I want to say about that. One is intellectual property, just like any other property, can be transferred, bequeathed by will, or passed on as part of an estate. Right? Now remember I said earlier, a copyright lasts 70 years after the person died. So the Gaye estate, actually the lawsuit is from his brother Frankie. And I don't know if the copyright was transferred or in a will or was part of the Gaye estate, but the Gaye family still holds the copyright to that and other songs until Marvin Gaye died in 1984. That means his family holds the copyright control until 2054. And whether you like Pharrell Williams or not, Pharrell Williams was just being slick. He reverse engineered the beat. That's all it was. That's what the jury found. That's what the federal court judgment said, right? And so he got caught.
Well, Doc, that's not a new phenomenon. When I was coming up, what had happened was the copyright law at the time was based on lead sheets.
Yeah,
And at the time you had to turn in the music written. You
right,
could not use recording, digital recordings, cassette or tapes to get a copyright.
right,
So if you didn't write down something, and I'll tell you the case what it was Henry Mancini did a tune that had the same guitar riff that Shaft had.
okay,
The Shaft had. And the problem is that Isaac Hayes did not and could not write down on music that he could not copyright that by writing it down
yeah,
because it was so unique
right,
that it would be so with digital recordings now being accepted as proof of copyright,
exactly.
things have changed.
Dramatic.
And that's what happened in this Robin Thicke Marvin Gaye thing.
Yeah,
When you go to court and you let somebody hear it
right,
and you copyright it using an SR or especially an SR form, the sound recording form
right,
is the one that says that's the one that copyrights people from bootlegging.
Okay.
See, because the bootleg thing, which is what Doc is talking about, became notorious. Oh, once 8-tracks came out, Doc, you and I, all of us remember that.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Those
Well,
bootleg 8-tracks.
Oh my
but when
God.
you look at that case field, that was the legal argument that Pharrell Williams and Robin Thicke started off with the lead sheet.
Right,
That was their defense.
right.
But as the technology evolved, the court ruling evolved.
Well, we don't do lead sheets anymore.
Okay.
We don't turn in any right lead sheets because back in the late 70s, early 80s, they allowed you to send in a cassette.
Okay.
They allowed you to send in a cassette as proof of copyright.
Right.
Now, here's something I try to tell people about copyright, Doc, and you can tell me where I may be wrong or right, but I got a little history with it,
Sure.
which is the Copyright Office itself is basically a archive of possession or creation.
Right.
In other words, when you send something in and pay that copyright fee, they're putting a legal stamp on it to say that you created it by this date and time.
Exactly.
And if somebody else comes back and tries to say they created the same work of art at a later date, then your copyright is what you use, and you subpoena the Library of Congress
Right.
to come to court to say Bill McGee sent us a copy of this recording on January whatever 1991,
Right.
and John Dowl sent us a copy of this recording on June something 2000.
Right.
So then the judge and whoever else gets to adjudicate it,
Right.
they check out what Bill McGee sent, and they check out what John Dowl sent, and they ruled that the similarity, whatever, Bill McGee has the copyright on this because he sent it in 91.
91.
Right.
Right? Now what the ruling is it an infringement?
Yeah. Copyright infringement.
Because what I try to tell people, Stevie Wonder's gotten caught up in this a lot of times, Doc. People will try to say that Stevie stole their song.
Okay.
Well, Stevie's so prolific, he done wrote a gazillion songs.
Huh.
But what happens is Stevie has a copyright. Joe Blow comes up and says, I have a copyright and Stevie stole my song. The court then has to say, but creativity is flowing.
Right.
It's no, how can you prove that Stevie heard your song and stole it?
Right. Right.
You see what I'm saying? Now in the Marvin Gaye case and the Pharrell case, everybody knew and knew that Marvin Gaye. Right? But if John Dowl writes a song and then he says Stevie Wonder stole my song, he has to prove that Stevie had access to your idea and not his own similar idea. You see what I'm saying? Because we might be, as a creative person, Doc, I hear a song in my head and say, you need to write this song.
Right.
Nowadays, what I do is I record it on my phone, the idea. Because what happened is, all musicians and artists, we hear stuff, if we don't move on it,
Right.
it moves on through the Ethernet, the ether,
No.
a creative ether.
Yep.
Spiritually, creatively, that idea is gone.
Right.
So a year later, I'm listening to the radio, and I hear, I said, man, that's the same thing I was. Now, Doc, I'm caught up in a situation that was so amazing.
Okay.
I wrote a tune at Virginia State
Okay.
for the band to play. What year did you leave?
I graduated in 74.
Well, you were there the year I wrote this.
Yeah.
And I wrote it for the band to play in the stands. And it started up. They still play this song to this day. Yeah, I wrote that. 74. They still play it to this day. Schools all over this, whatever, play that song. I thought I heard that idea uniquely in my mind.
Okay.
2 years ago, a brother told me, said, man, you remember that? First of all, the first lick was a straight up rip off from Parliament Funkadelic. I knew that. That Parliament Funkadelic did it. Doc, I was listening to some old Buddy Miles from 1968, 69. And guess, I mean, this happened a year and a half ago. And I like almost fell out of my chair. Buddy Miles band. I said, Lord have mercy. Parliament done stole the joint from Buddy Miles. And I stole it from Parliament.
Right.
Okay, so guess what? But now the other thing, the bass line, ba-doo-doo, doo-doo, ba-doo-doo, doo-doo, ba-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo. I done wrote that out so I'm grooving and everything else. A friend of mine told me, said, man, that's that Ripple song. That's a groove. The group was called Ripple.
Okay.
Came out 73, 74, 70, whatever. Exact same bass line.
Get out.
I said to myself, Lord have mercy, you done stole all this music thinking you done created something. And you've been going around for 40 years thinking that you wrote something. And so I'm saying that to you, Doc, to say that all appropriation is not malicious. Sometimes we are influenced by people and music that we really like. Like my group Trussell, and you will remember this because you were in school, Doc. Spring of 1973, a group comes to us who is based out of South America. And they have a song called Fence Walk. You remember that concert?
Oh, yeah.
Mandrill.
Mandrill.
Oh, really?
Mandrill came to Virginia State, and Mandrill did something that rocked the crowd. They
Right.
used a lot of African percussion.
Yeah.
They used a lot of African percussion because they were Afro
Yeah,
Cuban,
yeah.
they're Latino Afro Cuban. That was their whole, still is to this day.
Yeah.
All right. My group Trestle, we were just forming, and we were grooving and look. We saw that concert, and we appropriated that entrance.
Yeah.
That from that day on, we always came on stage using that same thing that Mandrill did. Now, I was talking to the girl from Parliament Funkadelic with her fine self, Dawn Silver. Her name was Dawn Silver. And I was talking to Dawn, and I was asking, I said, do you remember when we used to tour together? She said, of course I remember y'all. Y'all the ones that used to come on stage rocking them beats and rocking that groove like that. And everybody would come out to see who y'all were because y'all would be rocking it so hard coming on stage. And I said, man, that's crazy that she remembers that as our style.
Right.
But I remember us stealing it from Mandrill.
Well, there's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
And we listen to music, and you're a musician and an arranger and composer. So you know this. So the ideas that you pick up, I remember Mandrill in in there doing their time period, Earth, Wind, and Fire. I remember when they all things are Virginia State, right?
Yeah.
And so groups would pick up. And I don't think the idea of appropriating a lead in or whatever, it's when if the song is copyrighted, you can't steal the whole song.
Yes.
But everybody is borrowing from someone else.
Yes.
Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali would tell people, I borrowed everything from Sugar Ray Robinson.
Yes.
You look at Sugar Ray Robinson. There are some differences, but you look at old fight film, you can see where Ali got the movement, the jab, everything. Right? So people are always borrowing, and so it's when you do what Pharrell did, would be to take the whole song.
Yeah.
And reverse engineer it and then try to pass it off as your original creation.
Well, they honestly took the groove. I mean, I guess that's the hardest part for musicians to realize what is it that's unique that makes your music sound like it does. And I think all of us knew that when Marvin Gaye got to What's Going On and to all that, he was in a unique place where his music was readily identifiable as Marvin Gaye.
Absolutely.
It's like Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah.
You know, their horns and their beats became uniquely identifiable. I'll tell you who else, Tower of Power.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When you hear some Tower of Power, you hear that baritone sax and those horns doing what they're doing, you know that somebody, especially if they're using the contrapuntal, if they're doing those stuff like that, you say, oh, they're trying to jack Tower of Power.
Yeah. So I think the borrowing, now the simplest way to get around, or not get around it, is to get copyright permission.
Right.
See, Pharrell Williams and Robin Thicke could have gone to the Gaye family and got copyright permission, right? It would have cost them. But what they did was illegal because I don't know what percentage of it is, Bill, if it's 25%, 50%, 75%. Where the court is going to make this line of demarcation.
Yes.
Right. But if you take the whole idea, which from my understanding is what Pharrell did there, and get caught, then that's copyright infringement.
Yeah. Well, I could tell you a little story, and this is your show. I don't want to take up the time. Plus, we're running out of time again. But I did something similar and it was on a movie soundtrack. And next time we'll have to talk about movie sync and licensing.
Okay.
But it was on a movie soundtrack, and it's an interesting story. We have on, if you ever look at the Martin Lawrence movie and Danny DeVito, what's the worst that could happen? I have 4 songs from my record label and publishing company on that movie. 4 or 5. We even have the theme song, the title song.
All right.
I own the publishing rights to the title song of What's the Worst That Could Happen.
Okay.
Now, I'm gonna tell you a quick story because, like I said, we got a little bit of time.
Okay.
MGM contacted us and asked for a percentage of publishing.
Right.
And we want to go like, wait a minute, what? We wrote the song. I produced the rap group, and my deal with them was I get 50% of publishing, and I'll split 50% with you. Okay, and I control the publishing.
Right.
So MGM wanted a piece of the publishing, and I said, no, why? Okay, and then the lawyer got back and said, well, here's the deal. And you'll love this, Doc.
Okay.
In order for us to put this in nomination for an Oscar, we have to own a percentage of the song.
What?
So they couldn't nominate the soundtrack theme for an Oscar unless they actually had some ownership.
Oh my God.
That ain't no problem, because Doc already explained it to you. I said, y'all want 20% or what?
Exactly.
And they're like, yeah, 20% will work. I said, you got it.
Got it. What you
So
did?
I gave up 20% of ownership of the publishing because the potential to have the song nominated for an Oscar.
Okay.
Well, see, and that gets back to what I said about Daniel Snyder doing cost benefit analysis.
Right.
See, but now here's the thing, Bill. You had copyright control.
Yes.
You made a decision, right?
Yes.
What a lot of young artists are doing is putting the horse before the cart, to use that old term. They got the music out there. They've appropriated it from somebody. But they feel like, okay, this is popular. I'm going the Steely Dan example. They wanted 100%. Right? The guy said, okay, because we're popular. We've got this mixtape out there, we're popular. But they never sold anything after that. And so I think they couldn't. And Steely Dan was a popular rock group in the 70s, right?
Yes.
Great guitar, Walter Becker. And
one of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you come and say, I want 100%, then I think you have to have some negotiating skills and not give it all up, but negotiate that. Right? So let me ask you, with the deal you did with MGM, you gave up 20%.
Yes.
How much were you willing to give up? In order
50.
50? Okay. See, that's what I'm saying. See, I think the guys who gave Steely Dan 100% were poor negotiators.
Yes.
See, I wouldn't have given them 100%, right? Because they also want their music out there being popularized in the market today.
Absolutely.
The logic of the young singers was we were popular. So we're gonna give them this. We're gonna get rid of these guys because we can make it on our own, and they didn't. And so I would have negotiated, or my strategy would have been to negotiate
Absolutely.
a better deal with Steely, 50%. Let us go ahead and publish this song, get it on the chart. I mean, really get established. And now we're gone. Right?
Hey, Doc.
Yeah.
Thank you much, man.
Yes.
We got to close out. John's going to close this thing out, but we thank you.
Oh, man, it's been great.
Yes,
Great for having me again.
we've got to do it again, and so much in this music industry, and there's so much to learn, take away from. I hope our viewers and listeners I hope you picked up on the fact that Mr. McGee said in the early 70s, the music scene was really hot in Atlanta because for a lot of us, we thought or were thinking that it didn't happen until the 90s.
Right.
So keep that in mind. And Dr. Sharif, thank you again for sharing your knowledge on copyrights and trademarks and how we can better take advantage of it so that we can benefit financially as well as others. Folks,
Absolutely.
until next time, for Bill McGee, Dr. Reggie Sharif, and our producers, L.J. Brown and Derek Wright, I'm John Dowl. This is Listen Up a Minute.
All right.
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
I pledge to be the change I want to see in my community. Register and vote.
I pledge to vote in all elections, local, state, and national. Vote.
I pledge to always remember people suffered and died for the right to vote. Vote.
I pledge to always remember we, the people, have the power. Vote.
I pledge to always remember to make a change. Vote.
I pledge to remain in school until I graduate. Register and vote.
I pledge to remain a law-abiding citizen and protect my right to vote.
I pledge to always demonstrate respect for myself and others. Vote.
I pledge to get out the vote.
I took the Get Out the Vote pledge. What about you? Vote.
Take the pledge.
Take the power.